and welcome to this edition of Class is in Session. I'm your host, Ashley Stevens, and this show exclusively on Black Enterprise highlights the latest happenings in HBCU classrooms, public policy issues facing these historic institutions, the business side of HBCU sports, and the overall state of Black higher education. We also shine a spotlight on HBCU students and alum who are making major moves in their respective fields. And one of those today is our featured guest, author, mom, FAMU alumna, and autism awareness advocate Carla Moultrie. She's here to help break the stigma around autism through her new book, Ausome Girl, which is inspired by her own awesome daughter, Camille, who has autism. Hello and welcome, Carla.
Hello, Ashley. How are you?
All is well, all is well. We are excited to have you and would love to know a little bit more about you. You're doing a lot of things in the autism advocacy and awareness space, but tell us how you got there.
Well, how did I get here? As you shared, I am an autism advocate. About 7.5 years ago, my husband and I were relocating from New Jersey to the Metro Atlanta area, and we enrolled our daughter into a new daycare. And within the first couple weeks, we started noticing that she cried a lot, dropping her off to daycare, and for me, I thought it was just separation anxiety, new place, new surroundings. But my husband immediately observed that she wasn't using her words any longer. And again, I'm thinking it's just separation anxiety. And then a few weeks later, the director of the daycare she was at actually shared that she thought she may be autistic and we should probably have her tested. They gave me some resources. I immediately started trying to get her evaluated. And long story short, we had three evaluations over a year's time before we could actually get the diagnosis of autism. And
Wow.
that just really started this whole journey of living with a child with autism, and trying to see what her life would look like. Because I don't know how many people you know with children with autism, but a lot of times we get very grim prognosis. We're told things like, for instance, we were told she would probably never speak. We would probably have to institutionalize her one day, or she wouldn't be able to have friends. We would probably never hear her say, "I love you, mommy," or "daddy," and those types of things. So I really wasn't going to accept that. So we started with speech therapy, occupational therapy, and just different things to help her, and to make sure she developed and have the fullest life as she possibly could.
Got it. Understood. So how old is Camille now? And the things that you mentioned that doctors said she might not be able to do in terms of her speech, her language, vocabulary, how are those things now?
Camille is 10 today. She is doing really well. She's just a thriving student. She's in the fourth grade. She still doesn't communicate with full sentences. She has what they call ecolole, where they echo and repeat a lot of things. But she is learning to make sentences. What's so interesting about autism is that she's so advanced in certain areas, while there's still delays in other areas. And we've learned that we just have to readjust how we teach her things. We've had to
Mhm.
learn her learning style to help her be a better student, to help her thrive. She's extremely witty and smart, and she's all in every sense of the word. She's about like every other 10-year-old little girl. She knows how to pull on her dad's heartstrings. She knows how to get what she wants, and she's a joy. She's a joy. Many of the things that said she couldn't do, she can. It's just it looks different sometimes. We
Mhm.
had some of the same challenges that a lot of mothers and fathers have with children with autism, the meltdowns, and what we learned from that. A lot of times, the meltdowns was because she was trying to attempt to communicate things to us, and because she didn't have the words, and we may not have understood. That's what a lot of times the meltdowns were about, just trying to communicate. So that has just required us to pay closer attention to her and almost anticipate some of her needs. But we encourage her to try to communicate on her own.
Got it. Got it. Sounds like it's been a learning journey for both you and your husband. And I'm curious, how did you handle her initial diagnosis emotionally?
Oh, emotionally, I remember when she got the initial diagnosis. My husband and I were together with the doctor, and I literally collapsed. I literally collapsed, and my husband caught me as I was headed to the floor. And because, as someone had been, as we've been told twice that she did not have autism, that she was just a girl and she would just probably speak later. I was hopeful that that was going to be the outcome, that she would just speak later. And but when we actually got the diagnosis, it overwhelmed me, because right then the doctor said, "Well, you may never hear this, you may never hear that. This may happen. Prepare for this, prepare for that." So I was devastated. And my husband, who is clergy, and I don't know if it was just him saying, "Hey," the clergy side of him saying she's going to be okay. He really believed that. He really believed
Mhm.
that she's going to be okay and she's going to be fine and we don't have to worry. And I'm very optimistic today. I'm a lot more optimistic today than I was that day, because I've seen the progress. I've seen, the work that we put into her, and I've seen how she loves to do typical things like typical kids. I see her strengths, and I know that she's going to have a great and full life just like any other child. But it was overwhelming. I mean, I initially grieved what I thought I would have in a daughter. I was that mom that I wanted. I had hopes. I'm going to put her in ballet and gymnastics and all these great wonderful things. And I remember we attempted to put her in gymnastics, and because we saw her flipping and tumbling and landing on her feet and doing all these perfect things like any other gymnast at 4. And but I remember taking her to that first session, and she couldn't follow the directions as the other kids. And I remember being just really overwhelmed, and being really sad that she couldn't follow the directions. But my husband's like, she'll be able to do it. We just have to figure out what that looks like for her. And he's always been that optimistic person. I think that's just part of his personality. But we've seen her, excel in other areas. And once the grief was over, it was put into action. I put into action, what can I do to help other children and other adults learn about autism? Yeah.
I like that. I like that. You mentioned earlier that when she first got a diagnosis, that you all enrolled Camille in lots of different types of therapy. I'm curious, because I imagine that's something that many parents who have children who have autism have to do. Is that expensive? Is it easy? Is it easy access, so to speak? Like, I guess, does it vary by state or where you live in terms of the type of therapy that you have access to? I'm just curious about that part, and if therapy is something also that's ongoing for Camille.
It's ongoing, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because autism and other neurological disabilities therapy is extremely challenging. Camille receives autism services here. We live in the Metro Atlanta area, and we were looking for the best therapy, and we reached out to what's known as Marcus Autism Center here in Atlanta. Their wait list is over a year long, and that is the case for many facilities that provide services for autism. I mean, it was literally, we got on the wait list, and it was probably a good year and a half before we got her in. They told us it was a 6 month wait list, but it was well over a year before we ever got her seen. But we were able to, through insurance, we were able to get her in speech therapy and some occupational therapy. She wasn't really interested in speech initially. She was interested in playing, and but she was not really interested in the speech therapy. And then ABA therapy, that's applied behavioral therapy, and that's a lot of times when children have meltdowns and temper tantrums, parents have to learn what's the source of the tantrum, and how they can help them. So we were able to get that until we were able to get her into Marcus. And Marcus, they provide pretty much every other therapy. Toilet training is not traditional for autistic kids. It takes them a lot longer. Some of them it takes years. Where your average little girl, 2 to 3 years old, gets potty trained. Sometimes it takes kids to 10 or 11, 12 years old to get potty trained. I mean, the challenge is not like your typical child. So you figure out what's working and what's not working. But it is ongoing. She receives speech and occupational therapy in school, but we also have private speech and occupational therapy outside of school that she goes to in the afternoons. twice a week. So it's ongoing, and we have found that it is absolutely necessary. It has helped her. She communicates better. They even show us things that we can do as parents to help her better communicate. And I'm grateful that we are fortunate that we have the means to do it, with the time to do it. A lot of people, especially in our community, we find it challenging to do the resources, because if you're working, those additional therapies, if you're working, that means balancing your work schedule, and how can you leave work and take your child to therapy, and you have all those different challenges that sometimes come with the diagnosis. So therapy is ongoing for her. I anticipate it at least until she's out of high school,
Hmm.
just to make sure that she has what she needs.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for sharing that, and the notion that therapy is ongoing and that there are
Hmm.
helpful resources for you as parents as well. I think that
Hmm.
that's a really big deal. I actually want to ask a little bit about your support system. How has
Okay.
your network, you're an HBCU alumna, Florida A&M University, and also a member of my beloved sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I
All
wore
right.
my pinky green today for you.
With
So tell me a
green.
little bit about how has your network been instrumental in the work that you do as an advocate for autism awareness?
My network is absolutely amazing. I remember the first person that I, outside of my husband, that I shared with, um, that we have the diagnosis, was two young ladies who are also Florida A&M University alum. They both have sons who are autistic, and this we were in the phase, we were trying to, in the evaluation stage. And one young lady, I remembered when her son was diagnosed many moons ago, but I did not know that he was autistic. I did know until literally around the time that my daughter was autistic. And I remembered around the time, it was close to April, and she started putting up the lighted up blue on social media, and I was like, "Oh, her son's autistic." It just kind of clicked. But I remembered when she was going through a phase when he wasn't speaking, and I just completely forgot about it. It was out of sight, out of mind. And I remember reaching out to her, and she told me that her son was autistic, and he's now a high school graduate in college, doing very well, extremely well. And another friend of mine, I reached out to her. She had a younger son at the time. And she said, as moms, we just kind of know. We kind of know when something's wrong. And they both gave me some amazing tips, what to do. Don't take no for an answer. Advocate, advocate, advocate for your child. Now her son is in high school, and she's preparing him to go to FAMU to be in the Marching 100. And we're so excited watching their journey. And it's amazing. I mean, the support is just amazing. I'm so proud of her and both of them, watching them and their sons. And I see, I was it was hope. I mean, they gave me so much hope watching them and navigate autism as parents and have children, and they received the same diagnosis I did, and they were told you would never see this or that. But because of the work that they put in and how they really work with their child, and identified their strengths, I mean, these young men are thriving. They're doing well and will do well. We've just had to make different accommodations for them. Even, within the sorority, I have sorority sisters who are educators who have, I mean, my daughter's principal is our Sora. And they are so amazing. They make sure that she's good at school. I mean, if there's any challenges, just, they go beyond just being professionals. They are making sure that Camille is well and she's getting what she needs at school. And even my family, I'm grateful for my mother-in-law when she comes in town. She's a retired educator, and she was just like, I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't understand autism. And she is a retired educator, but she subs. And when she subs, she will only take jobs in the special education class because she wants to learn more. And my sister, who lives locally in the Metro Atlanta area, she's always saying, "I can give you a break. Just let me know. I can take Camille for a couple days, so you guys can do a weekend or what have you." It's been a blessing to have that support, and people who want to help. And that is one thing that I think, in our community, if we could be more supportive of those parents and that have children with neurological disabilities, because we need the support. We need the support academically and educationally, and just socially we need the support, and it really helps changes the trajectory of the lives of the children that live with autism, as well as is their parents.
hmm I'm so encouraged to hear, Carla, that you and your family have the right support for Camille, both in the family setting, school setting, community. That's very encouraging to hear. And I think there may be some parents watching now that may be on the opposite end to say, you know what, we may not have the support because sometimes understanding around autism is very limited. Can you tell us about some of the myths or misconceptions about children who have autism and what you've done in times when you felt that someone else's or the public's understanding about Camille and her having autism when that understanding was limited?
It's so interesting because one of the things that I found out recently, in the last couple years, is that people really don't understand. And one of the myths is that people, in particular children who are nonverbal, they people tend to think that because they don't communicate traditionally, like as you and I, people think that they because they don't communicate like you and I, that they don't understand what's going on around them, that they don't understand the things that are happening. They do. They're very sensitive. They understand when you love them. They understand when you're being mean to them. Just because they can't say, have traditional conversations like as you and I mean, they understand. They understand very well. They understand when people say ugly things and rude things. And I think people, if they were more aware and understood that their while they may not process things cognitively the way you and I do, that they still do understand. It just they process differently. And I think that is one of the greatest myths is that they don't understand, and that they're because of the delays that they don't get it. They do. They get a lot more than we would imagine. And my daughter is, I mean, I have to watch what I say. I literally, just like, how we think, with traditional kids, oh, I got to watch my language. I got to watch this. You really have to watch because they are like little sponges. They're soaking up everything and they understand. Another thing is, and they feel just as you and I feel. My daughter is extremely affectionate. She loves her daddy, and I mean, I'm away this week for business, and my husband says she's been sleeping in the bed with him every night. She misses mommy, so she goes and he says she's about to push him out of bed every night. But she's affectionate. The myth is that they don't they don't like affection. A lot of them do like affection. And the final thing I would say is that every child, if you met one child with autism, you've only met one child with autism. Every person with autism is different. While there are a lot of similarities, every person with autism is different. And that's something that people need to understand. They're different.
Got it. That everyone is different. That's important to know. We're here with Carla Moultrie, a proud HBCU alumna from Florida A&M University. She's also a mom. She's an author and motivational speaker. And Carla, I want you to tell us a little bit about your new book, Ausome Girl.
Okay. Awesome Girl. I wrote Awesome Girl in a response to observing my little cousins engaging my daughter around Christmas and Thanksgiving a few years ago. It was amazing to me that I didn't process it. I knew whenever we would travel or go visit, I would probably have to pack her separate snacks or different foods, because she probably most of the time wouldn't eat what everybody else ate. So she would also often have the fun snacks and the fun foods, and the kids would want she loves Oreos and smart food popcorn, and so we would always have tons of that packed for her, and she would be happy with her iPad and her Oreos. And little cousins would say, they would try to go get an Oreo or a snack, and Camille wouldn't share. And that's consistent with an only child and a child with autism. They don't social cues. They don't know to share or to offer a snack. And my little cousins would say, Camille won't share her snacks with us, or she won't let us hold her iPad, or she won't talk to us. And I observed, I began to observe that. And coming from a family of educators, most of my family, we like to say, let's give them a book. Let's help them understand this or that. And I began looking for books that could help explain autism to Camille, and to the cousins. And I didn't see a whole lot. I remember finding one book, where this lady was a nurse and she was also a clinician, in autism. So she wrote the book from a very clinical standpoint. It was a kid's book. And I thought, well, this is good for a clinician, but it was too much. So I said, and then I didn't see anything really that represented Camille, a little Black girl with autism. And so I began to write a manuscript, and I wrote the manuscript because I wanted what I thought about what I would want if I was a parent of a child, of autism, or a parent who was trying to teach their child about autism. Thought about how I would want the information presented, and I wrote the book. And I made contact with my publisher and my illustrator, and they were absolutely amazed, because they had never written a children's book, produced a children's book, about a neurodivergent child. They'd done other children's books, but never about a child with a neurological disability. And I sent it to them. They're excited, and then here it is. It became Awesome Girl, and I remember as they began sending me pages as we were in the editing and the illustration phase. My husband and I, we began to cry because we were looking at these pictures of this little girl that looks very similar to our child. I mean, one of the things that she loves to get her hair washed and braided, and her little beads. And I'm looking at the representation of so many little Black girls. It just really just blessed my heart. And we produced it. And another reason why we chose, the Awesome Girl name is because little Black girls are the least likely to be diagnosed with autism. We're the last to be diagnosed. Yes, that was amazing to me. It just reminded me so much of how African American women are sometimes, we go into the healthcare, go into a doctor's office, and a lot of times our health issues are ignored, or we're told no or yes, or maybe not that, and we're often ignored. And the same thing happens a lot with little Black girls. So I was grateful that I was able to share and highlight a little Black girl who has, a neurological disability, and she's also a superhero. And that was we came up with Awesome Girl because, one of my friends, as I share with you, with that has a son with autism, she calls her son her super duper kid. She was like, he was my hero. He saved my life. And I told her, I said, I see Camille the same way. I see her like a superhero. And she called him her awesome boy. And she's like, "And just like I have this awesome boy, you have this little awesome girl." And I began calling her that. And then but maybe a year later, for exceptional education week, her teacher dressed all the kids as superheroes, and she sent me the picture of Camille with the cape and the whole. And she confirmed what I was feeling in my heart. And I remember sending the picture to my illustrator, and he was like, "This is it. This is good. This is exactly what I was thinking." And that's how we were able to. We came up with Awesome Girl.
Love to hear that. Awesome girl. I really enjoyed hearing about the origins of the book. What's been Camille's response to the book?
Oh, she thinks she's a superhero. She really, I mean, she loves, to make sure people knows that that's her. I mean, we've been out in places, and I'm selling the book, and she makes sure she points to the book and tells people, that's me. That's me. And I mean, anytime, I mean, I have copies of the book laying around at home. She makes sure that everybody knows that that's her. And if a family member comes over or someone, she picks up the book and she shares them. That's me. That's me. So she gets really excited when she sees it. She knows it's her, and she's. I mean, she really, she gravitates, and she loves the attention that comes with Awesome Girl.
Love to hear that. Where can folks find the book?
Well, we have Awesome Girl. It's available, at Amazon.com. It's available at Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, Booksamillion.com. Everywhere books are sold, you can find Awesome Girl.
April is Autism Awareness Month, and we're here with Carla Moultrie. She's an author, a mom, a motivational speaker, and an autism awareness advocate who's just written a new book, Ausome Girl, which is inspired by the life of her 10-year-old daughter, Camille, who has autism. So, Carla, can you tell us a little bit about some resources for parents, especially during and even beyond Autism Awareness Month?
And for me, I would say, if you're in Georgia, just Georgia alone, um, there are a lot of resources in the Metro Atlanta area. But if you're nationwide, one of the resources I think that every parent that has a child with autism should definitely be looking into is speech therapy, um, ABA therapy. I know it's controversial. Some people believe in ABA therapy, but we've seen it to be very helpful to Camille. ABA therapy that's applied behavioral therapy, and it helps with some of the behavior issues that children have. It helps them not just with the behavior issues, but it helps you put them on plans for toileting, toilet getting them potty trained, even food therapy. Food therapy is something that a lot of children with autism have to experience. A lot of children with autism, like Camille, are extreme picky eaters. They have a very limited diet, so they only eat certain foods. And having a limited diet, we know, sometimes causes you to miss the proper nutrients and vitamins that you would naturally get if you ate certain foods. So food therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and don't be afraid to get the therapies. Don't be embarrassed about the diagnosis. The earlier that you see symptoms, and start getting therapies, the more you can help your child live a better life, a full life, a life where they can thrive and be successful as students. Because I mean, I see it every day. I am amazed at the children that are in Camille's class that are autistic. I mean, they are bright, they are intelligent. I mean, they're scholars. They are going to live full lives. So I would encourage any parent that has the diagnosis of autism for your children to get them into the therapies, your ABA therapy, your speech, occupational, physical therapy. We even added music therapy to Camille. A lot of children with autism love music. She is learning how to play the guitar. I mean, she's 10. I mean, she really loves music. So, and it helps her even with her communication. It calms her. So be open to different types of therapies. Be open to doing what's necessary for your child to help them live a full life.
Love that. Do what's necessary. Do what's open to being to helping that your child, so they can continue to prosper and flourish. And you and your husband are doing just that. Carla Moultrie, thank you so much for sharing your journey as a warrior parent who's out here, advocating for an absolutely awesome superhero girl, Camille, who has autism. And thank you for your resources and encouraging words and support to other parents who are in this journey together with you as well. So thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley.
Absolutely glad to have you. And for those who are watching, again, April is Autism Awareness Month, but the support, the resources, the knowledge and awareness extends far beyond that. So be sure to share this episode with family, with friends. Be sure to stay posted on the latest and greatest coverage on Black Enterprise's social media channels and on blackenterprise.com. I'm your host, Ashley Stevens, and for this edition of Class is in Session, class is dismissed.